And I will introduce K. Carl Smith. You are welcome to come up, K. Carl, for your introduction, sir.
Thank you so kindly for inviting me to be in your community. And let me get this right here. Can you hear me? Good, good. You know, Mike, I don't need this. I'm Army. That's right. If you're a veteran, please raise your hand. If you're a veteran, I just want to say to you on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your selfless service to your country. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. It is indeed a pleasure for us that's on this panel to be part of this, and we want to salute your Republican club here for having the vision and taking the initiative to do something like this, because this is needed, especially in these times. I think you'll agree with that. Let me ask you a question. If Adolf Hitler was alive today and operating in the United States of America, would you use all your power to defeat him?
Yes.
By any means necessary?
Yes.
We'll try to get rid of him.
Yes.
What you're going to learn today that for us as Republicans and conservatives, we don't have a message problem. We have a messaging problem. Before we get a chance to say anything, we've already been discredited by the vile and malicious propaganda machine of the left. And so, here's someone that we have come to know and love. I want you to hear what he has to say. And you'll recognize the voice when you hear these two audio clips.
I don't like having to say this, but being honest with you and with myself is paramount. And I can tell you, and you know this without me telling you, that if conservatism and liberalism are brands, the left has succeeded in destroying the brand of conservative. All you have to say the word conservative and they think you're talking about a Nazi or a racist. Pushing conservatism is not the answer. So what I would suggest to you, when you're out and about and you're doing, if you run into an occasion where you have the opportunity to talk politics, people that don't agree with you, do not use the word conservative. Do everything else, but don't call yourself that. Don't promote it. We've got a brand problem. It's time and I hate it. I hate having to admit it. Get rid of it. Stop calling yourself that. Just be one. Just talk to people as one. And you know what I think? I think you're going to find if you do this, that you're going to have far more people agree with your solutions than will disagree if you don't identify yourself first as a conservative in time.
Let me go back and play the second one. That's 11 seconds.
Nobody needs to abandon conservatism. It's just stop labeling everything we think or do as conservative and just do it.
Now, the left, as Russ said, and Russ agrees with me, by the way. For the past 11 years, my organization, we've been traveling the country teaching and empowering conservatives how to win the narrative. Because the left has demonized that word so badly that, again, before we get a chance to speak, we've already been discredited. So, if we would do everything we can, if Hitler was here to stop communism, the left had destroyed our brand so badly, they view us as Nazis, as racists. That's why now these kids are going to college now, they get indoctrinated in socialism. They come out now as many socialists. Now they're attacking their parents or their grandparents because of the word conservative. We have a message problem. That's the key to victory. That's how we're going to change things from the bottom up. If you wait for the cavalry to come, the cavalry's not coming. We are the cavalry. President Trump, he's doing his job. He's done his job. But the way we're going to win, we have to do things in the trenches. We have to learn how to better engage our family members, our friends, people who may not look like us, We had to learn how to trump the race card, pun intended. You know, several years ago, I was invited to a friend's home to watch our favorite football team play on television. There were 18 to 20 blacks at that gathering. All of them were black Democrats. And the subject of politics surfaced that night. When I shared with my friends that I was a conservative Republican, the attacks began. Their insults ran the gamut. Uncle Tom, foot shuffler, house Negro. Your parents must be disappointed in you. It went on the entire night. I went home that evening thinking and mostly praying about how can I win the narrative? How can I better engage my family members, my friends, about my conservative values and the message of the Republican Party? How can I do this? So after weeks and months of reading and research, the aha moment came when I created something called the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy. You ever heard the saying, necessity is the mother of invention? The necessity of being sick and tired of being called Uncle Tom drove me to come up with a way to solve this thing. So a year later, I invited those same 20 black friends of mine to my home to watch our favorite football team play on television. Reluctantly, they all came. And that night, the subject of politics surfaced. When they asked me about my political identities, they said that K. Carl's a conservative. See, I had to say something quick because right after that, the attacks would come. I said, wait a minute, I'm more than a conservative. I'm more than a Republican. I am a Frederick Douglass Republican, and I believe in the life-empowering values of Frederick Douglass. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life. I believe in the limited power of government, economic prosperity, free speech, school choice, women's rights, religious liberty, the right to keep and bear arms. When I shared that with my friends, all of them started talking about how they were a Frederick Douglass Republican too. It worked. I have it. For the first time in my life, I had the confidence, the knowledge, and the skill to engage my family members, my friends. This engagement strategy has been black barbershop tested. If you know what that's like. It works. I felt so empowered that evening, I thought I was faster than a speeding bullet. I thought I was more powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap a tall building with a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's super conservative. That's us. Y'all so funny. Let me get myself back together again. No, you gotta be careful. I had to be careful when I do that little skit there. I was somewhere in Florida, I won't tell you where. It was at a Republican Women's Club, by the way. And I went through that skit, somebody stood in the back and said, take it off, take it off. She forgot where she was at the time, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Y'all so funny. But what we're gonna do today, before you leave here, you are going to know how to win the narrative. How to trump this race card. How to engage people about the importance of liberty. About conservative values. But you're gonna understand what we're up against. How we lost control of the narrative. We gotta get it back. And what you're gonna learn later on, I'm gonna talk about it now, the key, the center focus to the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy is Frederick Douglass. Quick class on Frederick Douglass, born 1818 in the Eastern Shores area of Maryland. The way I like to put it, Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. See, when you're born into slavery, you're born below poverty. He never owned a pair of shoes until he was 8 years old, never slept in bed at age 10. He was homeschooled, self-taught. He started his own homeschooling program while he was a slave boy on a plantation to learn how to read and write. You know why? Because he rejected the slave master's cut and core curriculum. Y'all get that? And he started a tutoring program on a plantation to teach other slaves how to read and write. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let me give you some tidbits about Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery at age 20. or the second attempt. Frederick Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies. That's pretty impressive because based on my reading of history, 90% of blacks could not read and write. That brother wrote 3 books. He didn't have a ghostwriter. Frederick Douglass was a self-proclaimed Republican. You know, the Republican Party was started by abolitionists. Douglass was the spokesperson for the abolitionist movement, saying to the abolitionists, look, we got to do something politically to end slavery. That's how and why the Republican Party was started. Y'all know that. Frederick Douglass was an advisor to 5 Republican presidents: Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, and Benjamin Harrison. Wow. Frederick Douglass passed away in 1895 at the age of 77. When Frederick Douglass passed away, he had $300,000 in savings. Back then. Today, that's over $11 million. Douglass, he was born, I guess I could put it, he was a sub-0%. He was below poverty. He was on a plantation for 20 years getting that free stuff. Slave master running health care, food, clothing. I can make the case that Frederick Douglass was a 47%. He died a 1%. So you can see that the life of Frederick Douglass is inspiring, because no matter which victim category that the left try to put people in, no one today can out-victimize Frederick Douglass. That's the life of Douglass. But when it comes to the writings of Frederick Douglass now, that's what we need to focus on, because that's what gives us the leverage as conservative Republicans to win the narrative. Let me give you an example. Douglass wrote about the things I mentioned before: free speech, personal responsibility, economic prosperity, the role of government, women's rights, religious liberty, the right to keep the bare arms. All these core conservative values, Douglass wrote about them and he preached about them. It's very powerful when you leverage the writings of a former slave by his admiration for the founding fathers and those tenets of liberty. The left has no answer for Frederick Douglass, and they never will. It behooves us to leverage it. Now, some of you saying, K. Carl, Frederick Douglass been dead over 100 years ago. Don't focus on the man, focus on the values he embraced, because those values stand the test of time. On the Constitution, Douglass said on one occasion, the Constitution reads, we the people. It does not read, we the white people, Douglass said. Douglass concluded by saying, the problem is not with the Constitution, the problem is in the application of the Constitution. The problem is not with the Bible, the problem is in how the Bible is applied. So thank God that we have the literary legacy of Frederick Douglass if we choose to leverage it to trump the race card, win the narrative, and reignite America's passion for liberty. Once you start getting to the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy and the writings of Douglass, you're going to quickly understand and realize the most effective counter-liberty message to Marxism is Frederick Douglassism. Frederick Douglass and Karl Marx were both born the same year, 1818. And Douglass had this newsletter called the North Star. Guess who was a subscriber to Douglass's newspaper all the way from Germany? Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx took it a different way, because Douglass was all about liberty on God giving a right for free will. But what Karl Marx did, Karl Marx cherry-picked Douglass's philosophy of humanity and took it a different way. So when you learn to leverage the liberty message of Frederick Douglass, who I believe is America's greatest liberty messenger, and the quintessential American dream story. And thank God he was a Republican. And thank God he was a liberty messenger. We got to leverage it. So a Frederick Douglass Republican is not a person, you're not a Frederick Douglass Republican because you're black. Has nothing to do with that. A Frederick Douglass Republican is a person who embraces what we call the life-empowering values of Frederick Douglass. I went through some of them before. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life, the belief of limited power of government, economic prosperity, free speech, school's choice, the right to keep and bear arms. Douglass wrote about these things. So thank God we have it to leverage it, because the left hasn't got to the point to rewrite Douglass' speeches yet. But wait to see. If we don't leverage it, they'll sneak by and do it. Making sense to you?
Yes.
So when you leave here tonight, leave here today, you'll be empowered. But I don't want you to leave here and be intellectually obese. You got to go out and work it out. You got to engage your families and friends. And we're going to break that thing down later on how do you do that. But right now you got to understand we lost the propaganda battle. If you don't believe me, believe Rush. Okay? So thank you for coming, and we're gonna engage this thing. You're gonna thank God that you got it this morning and come and listen to us talk. So appreciate it very much. Thank you.